Welcome to Property Ladder, the series that shows you how to make maximum profit from minimum investment. Get it right and you could become seriously rich. Get it wrong and you could lose everything. This week on Property Ladder, we're with Graham Skerr and Joanna Kingman in the south coast fishing port of Emsworth, just 10 miles from the busy city of Portsmouth. Within the last 2 years, they bought and sold this house, making them a huge gross profit of £31,000. They decided to invest this cash in another property that would ultimately take them towards mortgage-free living.
So the only way we're going to do that is by either winning the lottery or by doing houses up and selling them.
Their hopes for mortgage-free living rests in this 1960s bungalow situated in a quiet residential street near the town centre. The previous owner, an elderly lady, had maintained the property, and although structurally sound, all it requires is new central heating, new windows and some general updating. Joanna and Graham have no intention of living here permanently. They both have full-time jobs and plan to do all the renovations in their spare time. They have given themselves just 4 months to get the house back on the market and sold for a massive profit.
Hi, Sarah. Hi.
We've got a mortgage of £92,000. We want to get that down to nothing, basically. So we want to just keep doing houses until we've got a mortgage of next to nothing, and then possibly pack my job in and do it full time.
So how much did you buy the house for?
We bought the house for £126,000.
Right. And how much are you planning on spending?
Around £24,000.
And how much do you hope to be able to sell it for?
We would like to get £170 for it.
So £20,000 profit.
Would be nice. But we've got to allow sort of the $5,000 for solicitors' fees, estate agents' fees, removal costs and that. So that would come out of our £20,000 profit.
Graham and Joanna bought this property for £126,000. They've allocated a budget of £24,000 and hope to sell it for £170,000. After taking off £5,000 for professional fees, this would give them a £15,000 gross profit. At the front of the bungalow are 3 good-sized bedrooms and a bathroom. These rooms just need a lick of paint and a quick tidy up. At the back of the property and facing onto the small back garden, there's a living room and a smallish kitchen.
We want to replace all of the kitchen cupboards, so new fitted kitchen, basically.
Right, what we want to do is we want to knock this wall down so we can make the kitchen bigger, and then we'll have a space for a dining table.
This is a good idea because moving this wall just a few feet will create enough room for a table and chairs, which is a great selling point for any potential buyer. They've got another great idea for the sitting room.
We want to take the window out and replace it with French doors, and then decking out into the garden.
Creating the French doors out into the garden will really open up the room, making the whole house feel much more spacious. So far, these planned improvements do make sense, but I'm not sure every decision for this house has really been thought through.
Also, one of the things that we'd like to do is a loft conversion. Next door have done a loft conversion, so that was the kind of what sort of made us realise that it was possible to do a loft conversion.
They plan to access this extra room by building a staircase up one side of the small living room, creating a 4th bedroom. As a 3-bedroom bungalow, this property works. Adding a 4th bedroom would be expensive, and I'm just not sure it's worth it. I have to say, personally, I wouldn't do the loft conversion because it does come down to figures at the end of the day. Yeah. It comes down to how much bigger the profit is with the loft conversion than without. And I don't know, I would be surprised if it would be worth doing a loft conversion after the money it's going to cost you. Graham and Joanna intend to split up their budget by spending a hefty £16,000 on the loft conversion and £8,000 on renovating the rest of the house. This brings their total budget to £24,000. But I feel there's little point in spending all of this money unless they are sure they will get a good return on their investment. Adding a fourth bedroom will mean the most likely buyers interested in this property would be families. But the small back garden may be a problem for this market. Have you actually thought who you're planning on marketing the house towards?
We'd like to go from the young couple to, with 2 kids, also to the older couple as well. So we're not going to try and make it ultra modern. We're not going to try and make it traditional either. We want them somewhere in between.
I think that's right to try and keep your market as open as possible. Having said that, if you don't make a decision about it, you can sort of blur around not quite knowing what you're going to do. Pinpointing your market is crucial when developing property. Emsworth is a beautiful fishing town which appeals to 2 strong markets, the family market and the retirement market. Families love the town for its reasonable house prices, its good quality schooling, its array of water sports and its large open spaces. It also attracts the retirement market because of the numerous bowling clubs and golf courses, and because a large number of properties in the area are bungalows, a house type that these buyers love for their ease and convenience. The size of the garden is the key dividing factor between these 2 different markets. Families demand larger gardens, whereas the retirement market prefers something smaller and more manageable, like the one at the back of Graham and Joanna's bungalow. If they want to get the best return on their property, they should market their bungalow towards the retirement market. But I don't think Graham and Joanna have thought this through enough. The most important thing that you need to do at this stage is to do your research. I think you've had lots of ideas, but I don't think you've researched it enough. Spotting the right property to develop requires research, imagination, and practical thinking to fulfill a building's potential. The decision whether to extend a property outwards, upwards into the loft, or downwards into the cellar must be considered carefully. There is a basic premise that adding another room will add value to the property, but this is only true when the extension balances the property correctly. As a general rule, bungalows are good properties to develop, as most do have large loft spaces and are situated on large plots of land. Before its development, this bungalow was almost exactly the same size as Graham and Joanna's, the only difference being the size of the back garden. The owners decided to build into the loft and thereby turned it from a 3-bedroom bungalow into a 4-bedroom family house. The sale value rose dramatically because the property became a family-sized house balanced with a family-sized garden, making it a very worthwhile development. When looking for a property to extend, always consider the plot of land in which the property is situated, the amount of dead space available, whether it's in the loft or the cellar. Only extend if the balance of the property is maintained. Always make sure any work is cost-effective and will give you a reasonable return on your investment. Your local agent will know what you should do, and you really should take their advice on it.
So we haven't talked to any local agents yet, have we?
Not yet, no.
Graham and Joanna should have done this before they even bought the property. Getting advice from your local estate agents is crucial. You must do your research and find out whether your development plans will add more value to the property than the cost of the works themselves.
What do you think about possible loft conversion? Would it be a good idea or not?
I personally think not. Well, obviously, if you do a room in the roof, you are going to look to sell it to a completely different market.
Yeah.
And my only concern with that is the size of the rear garden.
If you start saying to people it's a 3 or 4 bedroom house, you're trying to get families in here.
Yeah.
This isn't a family house.
Do you think we're right to aim it more towards a retired couple type thing?
Totally.
These are bungalows. Bungalows are typically sold to older people
Who might not want to be able to go up the stairs. They want to have a bungalow and use it as a bungalow.
and I think you've got to aim to that market and don't try and turn it into something that it was never meant to be on a plot that really isn't big enough.
How much do you think the bungalow would be worth if we did actually do the loft conversion?
It's a slightly difficult one. I think the first answer is the sort of money that you're going to spend to achieve that, you will not see back.
They all interestingly said don't do the loft conversion, which is really interesting, and it's really valuable to have somebody tell you that, because whilst we were kind of umming and ahhing about it, to have someone who actually, you know, knows this stuff and also knows the local area, knows what sells, to have them to say don't bother.
I think we have made the mind up that we're not going to do the loft conversion now. So we've saved a lot of time and hassle doing it. So our budget now is £8,000-ish.
Originally, they were hoping to sell the property with a loft conversion for £170,000, making a profit of £15,000. But without it, what is the maximum they can expect to sell it for?
I would have thought you're looking around about the 140, 145, depending on finish quality and everything. It's certainly in that sort of level.
And I would have thought that an achievable price would be in the region of £145,000.
Right, okay.
They bought the bungalow for £126,000 and are now planning on spending £8,000 doing it up. Including the £5,000 moving costs, this brings their total investment to £139,000. With the latest valuation at £145,000, this means that the maximum gross profit they can make is £6,000, less than half what they originally hoped for.
A couple of estate agents said you may be looking at 145, which would then bring our profit down to 6,000. So if you kind of think about that, it's £3,000 each between the two of us, you know. Is it really worth all that hard work and everything?
If Graham and Joanna had thoroughly researched this property before buying it, they would have realised that it was in fact a bad investment. But if they decide to cut their losses and sell the house now, they could end up losing money. They have no choice but to stick to their £8,000 budget and provide a quality property for the retirement market. They should then sell quickly.
I would still like to aim a market at a bigger band of people, because I mean, we looked at the house, and we're not old and we liked it. I mean, there is young people around here, but we just haven't seen any yet.
First-time property developers Graham Skerr and Joanna Kingman are 4 weeks into developing this 1960s bungalow in the south coast port of Emsworth. Work has just started, and they have just found out that the most they can sell the property for is £145,000, which means that they will only make £6,000 profit from this development. Would you still have bought it if you'd known that the resale figure was going to be around £145,000?
Probably not.
You've got to reckon on the fact that you might not sell it for more than 145, and if the budget goes up, you actually will lose the profit altogether, which you can't afford to do. It's crucial that Graham and Joanna stick to their £8,000 budget in order to protect their £6,000 profit. Any overspend simply means less profit. They've allocated their money like this: £3,000 on new windows, £1,500 on all building and plumbing work, £550 on the exterior, £1,000 for fittings, fixtures and decorations, £2,070 for both the bathroom and the kitchen. It's tight, especially as there's no money allocated if something goes wrong. Are you not at all concerned that you might go over that £8,000 budget?
Not really.
I'm very aware that we can't.
Oh yeah, but if it happens, it happens. But
I'm very aware that we can't go over the 8,000
Oh, no, yeah,
because
I mean,
of our profit margin.
I mean,
So you need to be sort of clawing back every single which way you can. Graham seems very relaxed about going over their £8,000 budget. However, there are areas where money can definitely be saved. See, this is somewhere I think that you could so easily save money. It's so right for this house.
I know, but the thing is, for a new front door, it's only, I think it was £100.
It was £156 actually.
156 for a new door, but then we've got to pay for fitting, yeah, but...
So with all of that, that's probably £200 saved. And at the end of the day, with a budget of £8,000, you can't afford to be flippant with £200 here and there. And the bathroom. Graham and Joanna have allocated a lot of their budget to change the bathroom, but I think it's a room where they can really save money. If they just regrouted the tiles and gave it a good clean, I think the bathroom would scrub up really well. Personally, I like the bathroom. Let's see the kitchen. They also want to completely replace the kitchen at a cost of £1,200, but I really don't think they can afford to do this. You don't actually need new carcasses for these units here,
Right.
which would save money.
Yeah, didn't think of that.
What you've got to do at the moment is you have to save every £50 and every £100, because those £100 and £200 is added up, which is going to make your profit. Yeah. Graham and Joanna want to get rid of this original 1960s fireplace and replace it with a Victorian-style one costing £150. They should keep it because it's in keeping with the style of the house, but Graham and Joanna hate it. That fireplace is not an unpleasant fireplace, and you can't afford to be spending money and time. I think that you would be much better off spending that £150 on putting a nice coal effect gas fire in an existing fireplace than fiddling around with it and ruining it.
I just think it's awful, and it's going.
Well, you're wrong.
I'm not.
To sell this house for its maximum price, Graham and Joanna need to make it as appealing as possible. To do this, they should be turning the front garden into a big selling point. But they've only allocated £350 for its improvement. I think they should be doing all they can to make savings inside and use this extra money to bump up this tiny allocation. The front garden at the moment looks a bit like a dog
Toilet.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And you need to make it look like a really lovely front garden.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is going to involve a lot of elbow grease, a lot of hard work, and more than £350 if you want to really make it.
Yeah.
That wow factor as you drive up and park the car, you want people to say, look at that gorgeous house. I want them to succeed, so I hope they will take my advice.
Sarah said that we should attempt to use the carcasses that are out there, and just put new doors on.
Right.
The bathroom, she thinks we should keep it, and the tiles.
The tiles in the bathroom?
She thinks the black tiles look really good. So she said to keep it. She said the taps will clean up as well.
Are you winding me up?
I thought she was winding me up when she said it, but no, she was genuine.
They might be laughing now, but if they don't spend their small budget in the right places, they risk alienating their market, which could ultimately mean they have trouble securing that all-important buyer. Deciding on your market is absolutely crucial when you're developing. Joe and Graham should be aiming their property towards an older market, and those people wishing to downsize from a large family house to a smaller, more manageable home. To attract any type of market, it's crucial that you think about their needs and not your own. For the retirement market, convenience and labour-saving solutions are key, like waste-level ovens, grills and microwaves. These will always be appreciated by the older buyer. Avoid using stainless steel appliances, even though they're fashionable and look great. They do require constant cleaning. Gas effect fires are easy to manage and will give a similar effect as an open fire, but without the mess. Avoid bare floorboards and spend the money on good quality carpets that will help insulate the property and keep heating bills down. Always make sure the property is very secure and that the gardens are easily maintainable. These ideas will not alienate the younger market, but the retirement market will definitely appreciate them, and they will help Graham and Joanna secure their buyer. In their situation, they need to create as much interest as possible in their property and hope this sparks off a bidding war between several potential buyers, which might get them more than £145,000.
It was interesting what she said about thinking about your market and always bearing the people that you're going to be selling the property to in mind. If we're aiming towards an older retired couple, maybe that they would be attracted to a bungalow.
I would still like to to aim a market at a bigger band of people, because I mean, we came, we looked at the house, and we're not old and we liked it, so why are only just old people gonna like it? I mean, there is young people around here, but we just haven't seen any yet.
Graham and Joanna are 2 months into their 4-month development. The quotes for all the building work have come in way over the amounts they budgeted on, so Graham has no choice but to take on as much of the building work as possible in a bid to stick to the budget and protect some sort of profit. This includes knocking down the wall in the kitchen to create a dining area.
I'm knackered. Go on, somebody else will go.
And he's even roped in some friends to help him out.
They're enjoying this.
This is good. Graham is saving a lot of money by doing this work himself. But he is getting carried away, and against all my advice, he is removing the original fireplace. Meanwhile, Joanna is looking on the internet for cost-saving solutions for the kitchen and bathroom.
That's a more traditional kitchen. Oh, there's this one. This one looks nice.
This is good. The more research they do, the better deal they will find. And the more money they can save.
No. You're not going in there, young lady.
I'm glad to see Joanna taking my advice about cleaning up the bathroom.
The things to concentrate on are the kitchen and the bathroom. I mean, the windows are done and we're really pleased with the windows, but kitchen and the bathroom really need to make those look really good. So we've decided to go for an expensive bathroom.
This bathroom suite is in perfectly good condition. It simply needs a few tweaks and a very good clean, but Joanna and Graham absolutely hate it.
Graham really likes bathrooms. He spends a lot of time in the bath, so he's really happy that, that we're spending a lot of money on the bathroom. And I think it'll be a real investment. I hope it will. And I hope when people come round to look at the property, that's one thing that they'll remember, that they'll sort of take away with them.
They've decided to keep the bath, but replace the rest of the white suite with another white suite and new tiles. The new bathroom will not add any more value to the property. It's simply an expensive luxury and a costly mistake they can ill afford. In the kitchen, Graham and Joanna are taking advantage of the free design service that many of the high street stores provide, but will they be able to claw back some of the overspend in the bathroom?
There's a design for your kitchen. This area behind me here, kept free for a dining area.
Excellent.
And then over this sort of area, you've got your hob with your hood. And we've designed especially.
And that's not the glossy one, is it?
No, it's not the glossy one.
No.
It's a slightly matte finish.
Is that like mirrored? Or...
No, it's a stainless steel panel.
Right. And what's this bit here?
It's a flyover pelmet.
Right.
You can put some lights over to give you some light over the sink, which will be up the top there.
How much is this going to cost us?
£1,714.19.
That's all right. A little bit over our budget, but I'm happy with that. Are you?
It's a better kitchen, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Graham and Joanna are letting their very tight budget spiral out of control and are getting too personal about the property. They think that by spending the majority of the budget on the kitchen and bathroom, this alone will make them their profit. They don't realise that buyers will only pay the premium price for a property if the whole house has been renovated. Graham and Joanna are going over budget and risk actually losing money if they continue to neglect the rest of the house. Graham and Joanna are 3 months into renovating their 1960s bungalow. They must stick to their £8,000 budget in order to protect their £6,000 profit. Against all my advice, they have decided to splash out on a new kitchen and bathroom. This is proving expensive, which is why Graham is doing as much work as possible to try to keep them on budget.
There's a lot of things that Graham has to do that I can't do. So I feel kind of, a bit of a spare part, so I end up walking the dog or making the tea.
It is now the beginning of April, and they only have 1 month left until they plan to put the house back on the market. The beginning of the summer is always a good time to sell, as this is when a lot of people start looking for a new home. There's plenty of work to be getting on with, but they're still neglecting the most important area of this whole development, the front garden.
Hi. This looks remarkably similar to it did a month ago.
You may well be right there, yeah.
Come with me because there's something I want to show you around the corner.
Okay.
You need to get on with this project faster.
In order to sell this bungalow, it's crucial that Graham and Joanna entice as many people through the front door as possible. It's all about first impressions, and at the moment, the property looks boring and drab. There's no point in them spending extra money on the kitchen and bathroom if they can't actually get potential buyers through the front door.
I've brought you here to this bungalow because this is exactly the same design as your bungalow. And this sold last year, looking absolutely beautiful, as you can see.
Yeah.
And if the details look like that and they're all sunny and bright and they drive up and it looks great, then you've hit that curb appeal, and it's absolutely essential that you achieve that on yours. To get it looking like this doesn't happen overnight. To be honest, you should have started it 2 or 3 months ago. And I think that you should take this on as your project and get it sorted out.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's essential that you do it right now. You've got to do it this week.
Gardens do take time to mature. It's important that you start planning your outside space immediately in order to give the plants time to grow. Front gardens are often overlooked, but even if your front garden is tiny, it's worth spending time and effort making it look neat, tidy and welcoming. Keep lawns well trimmed and the area clear of rubbish. Avoid frightening your buyers with highly personal garden items such as sculptures, extravagant water features, or any other items that reflect your personal taste. It is also important to focus on the exterior of the property as well as the garden. It's amazing how clean windows and a freshly painted exterior can brighten up the front of your property. Remember, your aim is to get the buyer in a positive frame of mind to view the rest of the development. So remember, start planning your outside space as early as possible. Maintain your garden throughout your development. Plants need constant attention. Recycle plants and materials that already exist. For example, if you're knocking down a wall, the bricks may be useful for paving. Keep communal spaces tidy, even if they're not your direct responsibility. I'm glad Joanna has taken a week off work to get to grips with the garden, and she's decided to get some expert advice from a landscape gardener.
I haven't got a clue what to do with it, really.
Potentially it's wonderful. It's a lot can be done. Oh yes, but you're on a budget.
Really limited budget, yeah.
So you've got to think practically. It is neglected. It needs just tidying up. It's just keeping it simple, understated. So that if you're putting plants in, you've got to think, are they in keeping with what there is already? And another thing is, cut the verge. It's not yours as such, but cut it. You can see others have cut theirs.
Yeah.
That's really neat and tidy.
So at last they're spending some of their budget on the garden. £134 on gravel for the front drive and a further £35 on some extra plants to brighten up the front. Graham has had a bit of luck and has managed to get hold of some free paving slabs. Freebies like these don't come along very often, but they're not sure if they like them.
What do you reckon, Graham? Paving stones or decking?
We might as well just do paving, because we've got all these for free, so...
I really like decking, though.
Yeah, I think decking's a hell of a lot nicer than paving, but it's like what they all said. Old people would rather have paving, but I just don't believe that for 1 second.
But the thing is, you can't cater for everyone's tastes, can you? So
we'll just cater for our own.
Not only do Graham and Joanna not need to spend this extra money on decking, but they're forgetting that decking will not necessarily appeal to the retirement market, because when it gets wet, it can get very slippery and become quite dangerous.
Well, should we price the decking up?
Well, it's probably going to cost about 200 quid.
Well, see, I don't know if it is, but it's whether we're prepared to kind of gamble our budget when we know we've gone over on other places.
I'm worried that they're beginning to let their own personal taste dictate this development and risking their already small potential profit.
What do you think will look best?
Decking will look better.
I think decking will look better. If you're happy, I'm happy, dear.
Decking it is then.
Okay.
The longer a project takes, the harder it is to remain objective and not get personal about your development. It's now 4 months since they started, and the house should be on the market. There's still a lot to do. Graham is keen to get the house finished as quickly as possible, but Joanna's spirits are flagging.
Kind of looking forward to going back to work. A bit of a break from it.
I mean, I know this house will be nice when we're finished, but I just do not want to have a big mortgage at the end of the day. I think probably the next couple of houses, it'll be like this where we could actually live in it.
Which would be a nightmare.
And then maybe these 2 or 3 houses down the line, get one that needs totally gutting and either buy a caravan or something and live on site or rent somewhere.
That would mean having to move twice. And I hate moving.
It looks like Graham and Joanna are beginning to have very different ideas about how to reach their goal of mortgage-free living. It's always difficult living in a property that you're developing. You have to remain objective and professional at all times. Every decision on site must be made with your potential buyer and profit in mind. But having to work around your personal belongings does make this much harder and create problems. It's crucial you remain emotionally detached from your development and try to keep your working and living space separate. For example, at this development, a caravan provided a personal space to escape to at the end of each working day. But Graham and Joanna don't have this luxury and have no choice but to live and work in the same space.
It's been about a week we've been without a kitchen.
This is the lifestyle they're going to have to live if they want to reach their goal of mortgage-free living.
I think being without a bathroom was the worst thing.
To succeed, they're going to have to adapt to survive.
Using a bucket to go to the toilet was horrible.
With Joanna finding living and working in the house increasingly difficult, Graham is determined to keep the development on schedule and standards high.
So is that it finished?
What, the garden?
I think there's still room for improvement.
Oh, definitely. If I had the knowledge, the money and the time. Definitely.
Yeah, but it hasn't took you that long to do this, though, has it?
Oh, God, yeah.
How long has it took you?
3 days.
Yeah, so if you think of another 3 days...
So 3 days is like a week and a half. Because we only have weekends.
Just take another week's holiday like you did last week.
Despite Graham's continuing enthusiasm and hard work, they're now 2 weeks over schedule. With so much still to do before the property is ready to sell, it's time to pull out all the stops and get the house finished. Graham works as a technical engineer, often doing night shifts, which means that every spare hour during the day is dedicated to working on the house. But the lack of sleep is taking its toll.
He worked a night on Tuesday night, came straight in at 8 o'clock in the morning and started doing the kitchen. Did the kitchen all day Wednesday. I came home and found him in a heap in the corner in the kitchen, just kind of sat there, all dazed out, didn't really know what was going on.
Now that the house is beginning to take shape and Joanna is back at work as a university lecturer, she's having second thoughts about whether this lifestyle change is for her.
I mean, I think Graham and I maybe have different goals. I am really enjoying my full-time job, you know, and I'm really sort of wanting to develop my career that way. And Graham's really wanting to develop it towards sort of property developing. So maybe the answer for us would be to keep the bungalow and to buy another place and do the other place up and sell that on, so that we're not having to move all the time. But financially, we don't know if we're in a position to do that yet.
With the market as it is at the moment, which it is quite hyped, and I'm not saying it's going to crash, but it's quite unstable.
Right.
I just think right now is not a very good time to be maximising your mortgage when actually your goal is to minimise your mortgage. And you stand a danger of losing everything.
So what will Graham and Joanna decide to do?
So what's your
I think we
number
should
one option?
sell and buy somewhere else.
The only way they can make enough money to pay off their mortgage quickly is if they continue developing properties, which means selling the bungalow right now.
I know you want to keep it, but the best thing is to get rid of it.
Graham and Joanna had planned to develop their bungalow and sell it within 4 months. They're now 1.5 months over schedule and their house is still not finished. But they still haven't made up their minds about what they want to do.
Hey, come on. So what are we going to do then?
I don't know.
Well, all right then, how's about we sell the one we've got now, buy somewhere else that needs work doing on it, and rent until it's good enough to live in.
If you're paying somebody else for rent, it's the same as having a second mortgage, isn't it? I'm getting really stressed about it now. I mean, do you think that there's money to be made in, like, property developing?
Well, of course there is if you get the right place. I mean,
Is there any such thing as a bargain?
there will be somewhere, won't there?
God.
We just need to go and look around the stage and see what they've got.
Getting started as a property developer is always tough. But like any new business venture, it is possible as long as you have a long-term plan and stick to it. The key factor in getting started is finding the right property to develop. The only way of doing this is to do your research, as this will tell you whether the renovations you are planning will add more value than the cost of doing the work itself. Thorough research will also help you set a realistic budget, and it will help you pinpoint your market so that you can develop your property with your buyer in mind. Had Graham and Joanna done this before they bought their bungalow, they would have realised that their property was in fact a very bad investment. To avoid making the same mistakes, always remember to research each property before you buy it. This includes setting a realistic budget and pinpointing your market. Always have a long-term goal and sell each property as quickly as possible. Even though Graham and Joanna still haven't made a decision whether to sell, it's crucial the house gets finished in order to get the property revalued. Whatever their decision, it's vital that they get the house completed as quickly and cheaply as possible.
You're so close to finishing, and it's just frustrating that if you just give it one last spurt, you're going to be there. This is your list that you wrote, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Which is
a long list.
There's not that many things on here.
They're
It's just
little
daft
things.
little
yeah.
One of the things that you've got to make sure while you're doing these bits and pieces is that the finish is absolutely right, because it really, really, really shows when you come to sell.
Buyers really do notice the finish of a property. Bad workmanship can knock thousands off the asking price. If Graham and Joanna want to get the top valuation of £145,000, then it's crucial that the property is finished perfectly. One major place they've not budgeted for is the flooring throughout the entire property.
It really is worth putting in Hessian back carpet with underlay, gripper rods that's properly laid. It makes a massive difference and people really notice it. And I think that just might be what tips your property over the price barrier that it's stuck at.
Do you really think it would make that much difference?
I think it makes a massive difference to that age group of people, yes.
Right.
You mustn't forget who you're marketing your house towards, and this is just as important with carpet as anything else.
It's now 5.5 months into the development. The carpets have been laid throughout the bungalow for an extra cost of £846. At last, the house is almost finished.
Are you a bit sick to death of the whole thing now?
I'm still enjoying it, but it's just getting to the end where it's getting to the bits that we don't really want to do, like what you're doing.
Graham and Joanna bought this property hoping to add a loft conversion and make 15 grand. But they soon realised that this was a waste of money, as it would not make them any extra profit. They had no choice but to renovate the rest of the property and sell it for the highest possible price in order to make a 6 grand profit.
So what do you think?
I reckon they'll be hammering the door down when they see this.
It has now taken them 6 months to turn this drab and boring bungalow into a bright, modern home. The windows throughout the property have been replaced and the garden has been tidied up. However, I think they should have put more effort and thought into this area and made the front garden a real wow factor for the property. Inside, the bedrooms have been painted in classic neutral colours and have been presented well. The tired-looking bathroom has been retiled and the fittings have been replaced with a new clean suite, which has taken them 2 grand over their original budget. In my opinion, Graham and Joanna could have cleaned up their old bathroom and not spent this money installing such an extravagant and highly personal suite. The old-fashioned 1960s kitchen has now been transformed into a modern oasis. The removal of the back wall has opened up the space and allowed enough room for a table and chairs, a great selling feature for any property. However, Graham and Joanna have not thought about their potential buyers, the retirement market, and have not installed appliances that they would appreciate. They should have installed a waste-level oven instead of one placed on the ground. They also used a stainless steel splashback, which will require constant cleaning. The sitting room has been repainted and the original 1960s fireplace has been replaced with a Victorian-style surround and hearth. The French doors out into the garden open up the room and create the illusion of more space throughout the whole house. The decking in the back garden is a nice but expensive touch, as they could have paved the patio for free. This property does feel light, airy and spacious, but is it too modern for the retirement market?
I think that it says that as you walk into into each room. It says that it's a modern young person's house, rather than being directed at perhaps retired couples. I'm not saying they wouldn't like it, but it seems to me that it is more likely to appeal to a younger person.
Graham and Joanna plan to renovate this property towards the broadest market possible. In order to sell the property for the highest price in a town like Emsworth, Graham and Joanna should have targeted the downsizing retirement market. Instead, they've made the costly mistake of renovating this property to their own taste and limiting their chances of getting the top price. They plan to do all the works for £8,000. They originally budgeted £3,000 for replacing all the windows, but finally paid £3,165. They'd budgeted £1,500 for labour costs, but ended up saving this amount because Graham did a lot of the work himself. £550 was budgeted for the back and front gardens, but instead they only spent £434. £1,000 was budgeted for decoration, but including the carpets, this cost came in at £1,725. But it was in the kitchen and bathroom that the biggest overspend happened. They originally wanted to spend £2,070, but instead this came in at £5,005. That is a whopping £3,000 more than their original budget. Their renovation costs now come in at £11,500. With £5,000 for professional fees, the total costs are now £16,500. They bought the property for £126,000 and they spent, including fees, £16,500. Therefore, their total investment for this property is £142,500. But during the development, estate agents didn't think that it was worth much more.
I would have thought you're looking around about the 140, 145.
In the region of £145,000.
A sale of £145,000 would only make them a profit of £2,500. However, it is now 6 months on and the market has risen. Graham and Joanna cannot make a decision about their future until the property has been revalued.
I think you've done a lovely job. The choices of materials you've used are very good, very modern.
It's got a nice modern kitchen, you've done the double glazing, and outside's particularly good as well.
Having kept it as a bungalow, you've certainly made it more saleable. I think if you'd done anything else, you would have found that you'd have been crossing over in markets.
Right. I think the property should go on the market at £160,000.
We would be confident of achieving £165,000 in the current market.
I value this house at approximately £170,000.
This means that with their total investment of £142,500, if Graham and Joanna sell the bungalow for the average valuation £165,000, they stand to make £22,500 gross profit. These valuations, and therefore the high profit margins, might seem exciting. But it's important to remember that the reason why this bungalow is now worth so much more is because of the rise in the market and not what Graham and Joanna have done to the house. In fact, if they had not done anything at all, they would still have made £20,000, just like every other homeowner in the area.
So if you only got an offer at 165, would you sell it?
No, because we don't even want to sell. We don't even want to move anyway. So
the thing is, at the end of the day, we don't have to sell. We've got a nice bungalow that we don't mind living in. It's got a nice, quiet street, so we're not desperate to move. So we'll only sell if we get the right price.
At the beginning of this project, Graham and Joanna planned to renovate and sell their bungalow within 4 months, in order to make enough money to take them further towards their goal of mortgage-free living.
Have you made any decisions about what you want to do next?
We've kind of decided that we're going to have a bit of time off over the summer, just to chill out for a bit, and probably not for that long. We always kind of look for things to do. There's always a next project, you know.
If you did want to carry on developing, I think the only option that is viable is that you sell this and you live in another property while you're developing it.
I think that's the kind of assumption that we're coming to, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do it again.
Yeah.
Although they've created a lovely home to live in, developing this house has proved a lot more difficult and expensive than they originally thought.
In today's market, it's easy to assume that buying a house and doing it up is a license to print money. But as we've seen, it's not as easy as that. For all your hard work to be worthwhile, you need to know your market, stick to your budget and sell quickly. Do this and you could end up with a healthy bank balance.
Next week, I'm in Swansea, South Wales, to meet 2 amateur developers who are so determined to keep costs down that they could risk jeopardising their whole development.
If this isn't done properly, they're going to have to rebuild the kitchen, which means you won't even sell the house.